I'm Jasmine, and this is my infertility story. Let me start that this story lasted about over 5 years, multiple IUIs, 3 IVFs, lots of hope, lots of disappointment, and even a doctor telling us that we had less than 1% chance of having our own child. So there was a lot of pain during these years, and it's only now that I finally come out of the hole and decided to come out with my infertility story and to tell you guys about it in hopes that it helps you and it helps me to release it so it's not hidden inside anymore. So let's start from the beginning. I had a privileged childhood, a good childhood, I can't complain. I was born in New York, raised in Long Island. I went to a good college. I met my husband there. I have a good career, went to grad school, got married. I was checking off all the checklists that we seem to, have ingrained in us as we were young, go to a good school, get a good job, have a family. So I was up to the family part. And, it was probably around when I was 31 that we decided to try. And in my master plan, by 35, I would have 2 to 3 kids and be set and live happily ever after. And that was the master plan. So at 31, we started trying. I thought I had plenty of time to, have several kids in my mind. And, a month goes by, 2 months. I still remember those early months thinking, after the first month, I must be pregnant, right? Decided to try. I've seen all those movies. They get pregnant so easily. And, a month goes by, nothing. 3 months, 6 months, a year. After, I believe almost a year, I went to my OBGYN and I asked her about it. And she said, maybe you should go start seeing an infertility clinic. And I went, and from all the initial tests, nothing popped up. There's no red flags from both of our sides. So we decided to continue, and they suggested doing IUIs, which we did. We probably did 3 to 5 of them. And then I was diagnosed with unknown infertility. Or undiagnosed infertility, is that right? Unexplained, that's it. I apologize. Unexplained infertility, which is so frustrating. Especially with someone like me that really wants to be in control all the time and needs to know the problem in order to fix it. And I always had this mentality, if I work hard enough, if I do enough things, I'll get that goal. And all of a sudden I was faced with fertility, and that just doesn't work. And I had to face that, things are different here. It doesn't matter how much I work, it might not work. And believe me, I worked. I tried everything. If someone would have said jump, I would have jumped at that point, and that was only 2 years in. So we kept on going. The IUIs were not working. I'm not that surprised. If you look at the percentages of success rates on IUIs, it's not that high. I mean, I always joke the IUIs are like the fancy medical turkey baster method, which it is. If you guys don't know, it's basically, in some cases you take meds, some cases you don't, but they monitor your ovulation schedule, and then when it comes time, they take the sperm and they shoot it up there in an optimal position and an optimal time in hopes that you'll get pregnant. So when that wasn't working out, the doctor recommended IVF, possibly. And at that time, we toyed with the idea of IVF, but we always thought we wouldn't need it, to be honest. We thought it would have worked. And but So we decided to go with IVF, but if we were going to go with IVF, it was suggested that we go with, for my father who is a retired doctor, he suggested to go to a larger clinic with a better, more advanced, I shouldn't say better, but a larger lab that is better suited for IVF, because I didn't know this at the time, but it's definitely, I found it definitely to be true, is that it's not only the doctor when dealing with these infertility treatments, but it's the quality of the lab as well. So when you look on your own for something, definitely keep that in mind. Look at the labs. And so we decided to go to Columbia. And at Columbia had an excellent reputation and excellent labs. So we decided to go, and we had our initial consult, and I still remember that first consult. The doctor basically guaranteed I would be pregnant. At that point, I was only 34 or 33 at the time, and the doctor was saying, with my age and I seem healthy, he can guarantee without a problem that I'll be pregnant. And I was like, okay, that sounds good to me, let's do it. So we started at Columbia. We did another couple cycles of IUI that were unsuccessful. So finally we decided to go with IVF. And I still remember thinking, oh, okay, once we decide to go with IVF, it's done. It's a done deal, right? It's guaranteed. Well, that's definitely not the case. If you look at the percentages of IVF, they're definitely higher than the IUI percentages, but not that much higher. Not as much higher as you would think if you didn't go through it. It's well under 50%. Some stats will say in the upper 20%, which is not that high at all. And so we started the IVF cycle, and it went fine from the get-go. I mean, fine. Well, I didn't have good response to the medication. I would only get maybe 7 eggs, but that was good for me, and I had them retrieved. And I was very hopeful because it was our first IVF. I thought that was it. We can do one and that's it. And we were going to do a 5-day transfer. They called us to tell us how many had been fertilized and that we should just wait. They called us again day 3 saying, we're going to wait for day 5 transfer. And they even scheduled the time for us day 5. I was all prepared to go. And just about 2 hours before the transfer, I get the call. The transfer has been denied. Well, not denied. It's been canceled because the embryos did not reach blastocyst. They did not grow further than day 3 or 4. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, to tell you the truth. I just remember being really, really devastated. I mean, imagine going through everything, all the shots, all the monitorings, all the ultrasounds, all the blood work, the surgery, the retrieval, and then not even reaching the transfer. It's like doing all the practices. It's like being on a sports team and going to all the practices and doing all the work, but just being benched and not being able to see if you're gonna, just to even get a chance, to show your stuff. So that was hard. That was a little bit of a reality check, but I wasn't defeated yet. I was like, okay, that's one. Insurance covered another one, and we met with the doctor, and she did mention that she probably had a diagnosis for me. It was no longer unexplained infertility. She mentioned that my egg quality is probably the issue, and that my initial response to that, like anyone, would be, well, what can I do to increase my egg quality? And unfortunately, the response to that is, well, nothing. That's just something that is, and it gets even poorer with age, and there's really nothing you can do about it. And the one thing she said, she was kind of hesitant to say it, but she was like, well, some people do acupuncture for it, but there's no guarantee that that really does anything. And remember, this is at the moment where I was ready to do anything. I was ready to jump through hoops if someone said so. So she said, acupuncture? I said, where? she recommended Angela from Fifth Avenue Fertility, and I called within the hour to make my appointment. I believe I probably went in for the consult 2 days later. And I still remember that first meeting with Angela. It was like nothing I would have imagined. I would never describe her as an acupuncturist. I'd describe her more as a guide, like a mentor in my infertility journey. She asked me about my history, asked me about myself, and started to guide me in the right direction. And it was so nice and such a relief after not knowing. When you go through these struggles and you're just not sure if you're making the right choices and you're second guessing yourself, it's just really a burden off your shoulders when you meet someone that helps you in that way and guides you and knows and is educated not only with acupuncture, but the vitamins or the doctors and the facilities, or just has so much experience in it that it like feels like you're not alone anymore. So it was great. I mean, I joke that she's about 20% acupuncture and 80% mentor or guide, and I still stand by that. So we agreed that for 3 months I would kind of cleanse my body and get ready for the next cycle, so I could be at the optimal stage for my next IVF cycle. So that's what I did. I adjusted my diet. I didn't have to adjust it too much. I was pretty healthy already, but no sugars, no dairy, no caffeine. That was bigger for me because I love a good cortado, a good latte. But that's what we did. And then along came the second IVF cycle. Same motions, same meds. Again, I think I had maybe nine eggs this time retrieved. Same thing, it's like deja vu, and of course I was super worried. And we came to transfer day, the same thing, they told us to come in for day 5. And for this time, we decided to do acupuncture before and after transfer. So we were at acupuncture, and I remember being really tense because, the previous cycle, this is about the time they called to cancel it. So I went into acupuncture, and I tried to relax, and I remember so well the acupuncturist coming in, and she just had this look on her face, and I knew right away that what she was going to say. And she said it. She said, they called, it's been canceled. She's so sorry. So that's 2 IVF cycles with no transfers. And at this point, I was like doing everything. I was trying everything. I felt so defeated. I was like, I'm trying so hard, and they're not even letting me off the bench. I haven't even gotten a transfer yet. Imagine going through all those shots, 2 surgeries, and just never even getting the chance for a transfer. I remember walking back home across the park that day and just feeling so down. And I was being very serious. I had a very serious conversation with my husband, and I said, maybe we need to separate, because you want a child. I mean, I wanted a child too, but it was I don't want to say it was my fault, but it was because of egg quality that it wasn't working. And that is my court. And I can be okay. I felt like, okay, if I can't have a child, then that's fine. But I didn't want to deprive my husband from having a child, especially because I know what a great father he would be. Like some people are just, you see them and they're meant to be dad, they're meant to be a father. Like when I met him, even in college, you knew he would be a great father. And to be that person standing in that person's way, like I just couldn't live with being the reason why he never could be a father. And I mean, of course he dismissed it right away. I remember he was like, "We'll figure it out no matter what happens," you know. But it's hard. I mean, there were real feelings. I didn't want to be that reason for him. So I thought that day was hard, but the next day was even harder. So we went back to Columbia for the meeting with the doctor, and I kind of expected the doctor to, have another plan of action for me. But she didn't. She said the same thing happened. She kind of outlined it and said the same thing happened. The embryos grew for a certain amount of time, and then they just didn't grow any further. So it's the poor egg quality for sure, she said. And her next step was an egg donor or adoption. And when I asked her, I was like, "Are you sure?" At that time, I was probably 34. And I said, "Are you sure? I'm 34 years old. Is it really time to just stop trying?" And she looked at me and she said, "I give you less than a 1% chance." 1%? Less than 1%. I mean, I think she probably wanted to say 0%. But it's not possible. So it's like, imagine someone giving you less than a 1% chance. It would have been so easy to give up at that moment, especially that was going on 5 years. Imagine struggling for that long and then having someone tell you had less than a 1% chance. I mean, I still look back on that day. It's really hard to think about. So, of course, I was devastated. And I went the very next day. I had an appointment with Angela, my guide / acupuncturist, more guide. And we spoke about, Columbia kind of releasing me, and how their next plan for me was an egg donor adoption. So with that, Angela kind of laid out an alternative option for me. And it was to go to Cornell and to try cold culture, which is a procedure that no other place in the city at the time offered. And what cold culture is they basically take a culture of the uterine lining. So what they do is they recreate your environment within the petri dishes. So when you do IVF and they place your eggs back into the petri dishes to grow, instead of the generic solution, it's actually a customized environment based on your body. So the idea is, your embryos and your egg will be more comfortable in that space and maybe thrive a little bit better. And she even recommended a specific doctor, Dr. Davis. And even though Dr. Davis didn't take my insurance, she really highly recommended it. And at that point, yes, I'm gonna say yes to anything that could possibly bring me a child. I mean, at that point, if I didn't throw everything in front, everything I could, at least I tried, What's to lose? I had less than 1% according to this doctor. So I went to Cornell. I met with Dr. Davis, and he was great. And we did everything. We did the cold culture, and we decided on a day 3 transfer, since it seemed like in the past my eggs did not want to make it to day 5. So that's what we did. And I gotta say, the time when it came to the transfer, I was terrified, because at this point, I had 2 previous IVF cycles. I never reached transfer. So I just remember that day, we did a day 3 transfer this time, and that day was so stressful. We also did the acupuncture too, and I remember finally getting a transfer and feeling like, they finally let me in, let me in the game. Now I can actually see if anything's working down there. And yeah, we got the day 3 transfer, and we transferred 2 embryos. And end of story, end of this part is I got pregnant with one of them. And I still can't believe it. I remember Dr. Davis calling me up with the results, and he said, "Congratulations, you're pregnant." And I was in disbelief. I was like, "Are you kidding?" And he got really serious, and he said, "I would never kid about that." I was like, "Yeah, that's fair in your profession." Oh my God, but can you believe it? 3 months after I got the less than 1% diagnosis from the other doctor, I was pregnant. I still can't believe it. So that's it. And my pregnancy, I joke that my pregnancy was so easy because I was being rewarded for trying so long that they made my pregnancy really easy. And I also joked with my husband, since we go to the normal pregnancy appointments, I was like, this is so simple. Like, it's compared to everything I went through to conceive. I was like, oh my God, is this what everyone else goes through? They just have the baby naturally, and then they just have to go through the couple appointments, and the worst thing is a sugar test. I was like, oh, these people don't know what they're how great they have it, because they didn't have to go through all that. But I mean, in the struggle, I will say I've learned so much about myself, and I am so grateful for everything I have, especially my daughter. Not that I wouldn't have been grateful for her if she had come more easily, but I cherish her, and I am so much more grateful for her than I could have ever imagined. I still look at her and I ask myself if she's real. Are you real? It's she's my little miracle baby. So I am forever grateful. I am grateful for all those people that helped me along the way. And that's my story. Over 5 years of trying, given less than a 1% chance of having my own child, multiple IUIs and 3 IVFs later, and here we are. I hope this helped you, and if you have any questions, you can always contact me. Thanks, guys.